All right, today we're unpacking a single event that signals a massive, and I mean massive, shift in the South Caucasus. We're talking about a train shipment that could be the very first step toward a lasting peace, or it could be a deeply controversial gamble. So picture this. On December 19th, something happened that just a year ago would have sounded completely impossible. A train actually crossed a border that had been sealed shut for 3 whole decades, locked down by the bitter conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh. And that train, carrying 22 tanker cars filled with Azerbaijani fuel, rolled right into Armenia. This one act raises a monumental question for the entire region. Is it really possible that a simple trade deal, a shipment of fuel, could start to unravel one of the world's most stubborn and painful conflicts? Okay, so what exactly was on that train? And why does this one delivery represent such a radical, almost unthinkable change in the relationship between these two nations? Let's break it down. The cargo itself was 1,300 tons of gasoline, coming from Azerbaijan's state-owned oil company, Sakar. But, the significance here goes way beyond the fuel. This was the very first direct energy import between Armenia and Azerbaijan since the Soviet Union collapsed, a period that's been almost entirely defined by their deep-seated conflict. Now, something this big doesn't just happen out of the blue. It's actually the result of a really sudden and intense diplomatic push. So how on earth did we get here? The journey to this moment was incredibly fast. I mean, right after the intense war in 2021 and 2022, you get this huge breakthrough in August 2025 with the Washington Peace Declaration. Just a few months after that, in November, they hammer out the final details and boom! By December, the historic shipment is on its way. So if you look at it from the Armenian government's perspective, their thinking is pretty clear. Vice Premier Mahar Grigoryan put it perfectly. He said, this is all about turning diplomatic words into something tangible, into an economic reality. It's a way to build trust, not with promises, but with real, pragmatic action on the ground. Okay, but let's get real for a second and talk numbers. Is this shipment a true game changer for Armenia's energy market, or is it really just a powerful symbolic gesture? The first delivery was 1,300 tons of gasoline. Now, for a single shipment, that sounds pretty significant, right? But the real question is, how does it stack up against what the country actually needs? To really get the impact of this shipment, you have to look at the bigger picture. In 2024, Russia just completely dominated Armenia's fuel market. We're talking over 61% of their entire supply. Everyone else, Iran, Bulgaria, you name it, they weren't even in the same league. So what does this all mean? Well, those 1,300 tons from Azerbaijan, they add up to less than 0.3% of Armenia's annual fuel needs. And right there, that's the core tension of this entire story. The shipment is politically monumental, but in purely practical terms, it is a tiny, tiny drop in a very big ocean. As you can probably imagine, an event this loaded, touching on decades of conflict and pain, has kicked off a fierce and deeply emotional debate inside Armenia itself. The whole conflict really boils down to two completely opposite ways of seeing the world. The government frames this as pragmatic diversification, just a smart economic move. But the opposition? They see it as nothing less than financing the enemy. For supporters like the ruling party's Babkin Tunyan, the logic is all about pragmatism. He's saying, look, this isn't about replacing Russia. It's about diversifying. It's about having another option, any other option, to break Moscow's monopoly and stop fuel from being used as a political weapon. It's just business. But the opposition has a powerful emotional and strategic counterargument. As leader Edmond Marokian puts it, any money sent to Azerbaijan is directly funding an army that they argue still occupies sovereign Armenian land. For them, this isn't about economics. It's a fundamental issue of morality and security. And critics like David Ananayan really drive this point home. They argue that the government is essentially trading long-term security and national principles for a short-term economic gain, all without setting any clear red lines in its dealings with its longtime adversary. The ruling party, though, just dismisses these fears. Their comeback is simple and direct. You simply cannot build a lasting peace without the very economic connections that the opposition is condemning. All right, so let's zoom out for a second and see how this one shipment fits into the global chessboard. Because this story is about so much more than just Armenia and Azerbaijan. See, this isn't just a local issue. It's a key move in a much bigger geopolitical game. The European Union, for one, strongly supports unblocking these trade routes, not just for peace, but also, and this is crucial, to weaken Russia's energy stranglehold on the region. And for Armenia, it's another careful step in its larger strategic pivot away from its historical reliance on Moscow. And yet, here's a fascinating twist. Some economists are looking at this deal and basically saying it makes very little market sense. They point out that Azerbaijan isn't even a major gasoline exporter, and get this, it actually imports its own premium fuel from Russia. And maybe the most telling piece of evidence? Neighboring Georgia, which has totally open trade, doesn't buy Azerbaijani fuel. That suggests it just isn't competitive on price. So all of this leads us to the ultimate question. What does the future hold for this fragile new economic relationship? Is this the real start of something new, or is it just a one-off political stunt? Well, for now, officials on both sides are calling it a pilot program, basically a test run. There are still logistical hurdles to sort out for sure, but here's the crucial part. There seems to be a real desire to make this a two-way street. Both governments are already talking about expanding the list of traded goods to turn this one-way import into a genuine economic exchange. You know, this single shipment has completely redefined what's possible in the South Caucasus, and it forces everyone involved to confront a really difficult question. Is creating economic dependency on a longtime adversary the necessary price you have to pay for peace, or is that a cost that is simply too high? The answer to that is going to shape the future of this entire region.